Hello, the people. It's me, Redhand. uh, Not sure if this is a new episode of Redhand Rambles. We'll see if we break that 10-minute mark. No, this isn't a new thing I'm doing. It just, I woke up this way. Uh, God. Um, that's, that's one of the stupidest things I've done on camera. Um, I just wanted to talk about, I noticed yesterday there was this thing on Threads where they're like, "What is something you want sci-fi to stop doing, or that you're tired of, is overdone?" And it brought up what the top thing that the poster said. Like their thing is like over detailing spaceships, right? And they used Imperial Star Destroyers as an example. And I want to take that and turn it into an appreciation for not just the diversity of design in Star Wars, but the consistency. It's immense. It is incredibly impressive through all of their different, all the different things from the character designs, the robots, the ships, the vehicles, and the weapons. Now, as many people know, it's well, not as many I would think. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, it's something I know. It's basic knowledge to me, but all of the weapons in the original trilogy, they weren't just like, let's make up some weapons. They weren't even replica weapons. They were actual World War One military surplus, and like a lot of times they'd actually be firing blanks and stuff to get the muzzle flash and stuff, and then they'd edit in the pew pew afterwards, right? And actually, the reason George Lucas chose that is like, all right, it's the 70s. A lot of the weapons that were used in World War II were also used in the Vietnam War. There's a lot of people alive who fought in World War II, who would very easily recognize weapons that recent and take him out of it. But he still wanted something that was felt not rustic, but also still familiar. And so he got all these World War One surplus weapons, and that became the basis of what would become the weapon design in all of Star Wars from then on, right? Like, a lot of Imperial weapons the stormtroopers use are just they're actual real world guns. And then if you take stuff that First Order uses and the Grand Army of the Republic uses, you can see that they've basically tweaked those designs in a believable way to make it so that, this clearly evolved into this, it's very cool. And in a lot of cases they even use other real world weapons that did actually spawn from World War One weapons. It's really neat. I like that. But what I want to focus on is the actual ship design, because I was just watching some freaking sick edits, and one was an old Republic trailer, like a prayer edit, the one that was in Deadpool and Wolverine, and there's a ship that one of the Jedi jumps onto, right? And it's only in about, it's a landscape shot, but imagine it takes up about this much of the screen. You don't really see much of it, right? And so, but I immediately recognized, oh, sick, that's a Corellian ship. That's so cool. And it made me think of the thread yesterday where like, oh, Star Wars ships are so over-designed. It's like, but on the other hand, Okay, maybe, but you can immediately recognize what planet a ship was made on, or what in-universe company made it, by just a glance, right? Like again, the Corellian ships are very distinct. Most of them are saucer shaped, or whatchamacallit, like I don't know, takeout box shaped, like the Ghost. Um, and their connection ports are very not standardized, but very. You can tell that the minds designing this ship designed all these other ships, right? Like Iron Squadrons, I think they have a YT 2900. I think. I don't know all the ship designations. I'm not that deep in it. I used to, but I'm not that deep into it. But like the Millennium Falcon's a YT 1300, and you can see when you put all these different Corellian ships together, every single one of them is very distinct, but they're still very unique. And you're like, oh man, that's a lot of ship diversity. How are they going to make all of the other ships? But then you can tell. You can see if a ship was designed by Quat Drive Yards or Sinar Jameis Fleet Systems, or Income Frytech, right? Like those are, to a non-Star Wars fan, I probably sound insane, but trust me, those are the most surface level companies you can know about. Like, I'm really not that impressive, but it's like, you can tell, like, oh, the Arc One. Oh, someone's got some good shit out there. Like, oh, the Arc 170 is very clearly designed by Income Frytech. You can tell that evolution from that to the X-Wing, and versus the Sinar Jameis Actis Jedi Starfighter is very obviously what eventually became the TIE Fighter. And fun fact about that is, the the Jedi Starfighter was designed with no life support and no shields, because Jedi are force sensitive, and they can move a ship faster. They can maneuver a ship out of the way of a blaster, out of the way of a incoming fire, faster than any even any droid brains can, right? So to actually weigh their ship down with all those extra systems would be a detriment. Now, unfortunately for the poor TIE pilots who would come after those Jedi, almost none of them were force sensitive. Yet TIE fighters were still made with no shields and no life support systems. So yeah, really sucks to be a TIE pilot. Again, versus, what are they called again? Arc 170s, which did have, I do not believe they had shields, but they had very robust life support systems, and much heavier weapons than the Vulture droids and Tri-Fighters that the Separatists use, right? And then, I'm kind of getting off track. Like, you can see, and then when different groups on different planets make ships, or on the same planet make ships, you can very clearly see that the Providence class Dreadnought, once you learn it's made by the Quarren, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Because if you look at the original trilogy, well, actually, if you just go to the Water War arc, which I don't give a fuck what people say, I love that arc. And people are like, and it comes right before Umbara, so well, what's even the point? You just skip it and get to Umbara. You know what? Maybe having a really slowed down, low stakes, lackluster arc be right before the best arc in the whole franchise actually helps. Maybe that's why the Umbara arc impacted you so much. Because by your perception and by comparison, the arc right before it was shit. That is something that is a whole other video that I want to talk about at some point. I had that idea yesterday. I will tolerate no water war slander in this house. In this dorm, water war is a good arc. That is awesome. Anyways, if you look at all of the buildings that the Mon Calamari have, they just stuck engines on that. Right, like when the Empire took over, there was as to my remembrance. Again, like I said earlier, I'm not that deep into the lore. It's so much so that I've read all the novels or anything. Hell, the novels I have read have actually since become non-canon. But as to my knowledge, there was a mass exodus where the Mon Cala just stuck engines on the bottoms of their buildings and left. They just left the planet. It'd be like if you know, remember that episode of Phineas and Ferb where Doofenshmirtz just puts a rocket engine on the bottom of Big Ben and flies it out, flies it to the tri-state area? Imagine they did that to all the buildings in New York, right? That's or when he made a space station by just putting rockets on his building and launching it into space, like same kind of deal, right? That's how you get Mon Cala ships. So then if you combine a lot of the design elements of those compare to the Providence Dreadnought, which is made by the Quarren, who are the other sapient species who live on Mon Cala, you get, oh, that makes sense. These two cultures interact a lot and so have a very similar design philosophy. But the Providence Dreadnought is also very distinct from the MC-80, MC-85 class of cruisers, right? That's another thing. The Star Destroyers, there are some Star Destroyers that are not designed by quad drive yards, like I believe the Mandator series, and you can tell they are very different. They are rounded, except for the stupid ass pizza slice in episode 8. I liked the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, but that the Mandator 4 felt a little too much USS Vengeance for my liking. Yeah, it was a very clear design crossover there, especially if you realize that, even though they're different studios, a lot of Lucasfilm's subsidiaries like Skywalker Sound and Industrial Light and Magic, which are their sound and visual effects companies, get contracted out all over the place. Legendary uses them, Star Trek uses them, everyone uses LucasArts stuff because, again, I didn't mention this in this video, but back in the 14 minutes, yeah, this is an episode of Redhand Rambles. Welcome. Back in the 70s, 80s, they pioneered they wrote the rules of the game, right? Like, there were other people doing this, especially like Star Trek, I believe, actually started in the 60s, but no one did quite what Lucasfilm was doing, and then eventually Lucasfilm's companies just became the best at it, so everyone started using them. So it's not like, oh, well, actually Star Trek started first. Doesn't matter. Their companies aren't the one everyone hires. So, yeah. suck it, Trekkies. But oh no, I scared them off before talking about my appreciation for Star Trek ship design, which I also I wanted to bring up. Is like you can tell. First off, you can tell bringing ILM into it. You can tell that a lot of the people who work on these different franchises work on these different franchises at the same time, because again, the USS Vengeance, it's just the thing, but way bigger and black. It's the ship she tells you not to worry about, right? And you can tell the Vengeance. It's the Enterprise, but big and black, and it has 2 guns hanging off the bottom. And then the Mandator 4, it's a Star Destroyer, but it's bigger and black, and it has 2 guns hanging off the bottom. And so you can tell sometimes there's bleed over, and that does sometimes hurt the end product. Again, also both projects, J.J. Abrams. But that's being said, that's something I wanted to compare. Is I do really like a lot of Star Trek ship design, but compared to Star Wars ship design, as an outsider at a glance, I can't tell Romulan and Klingon ships apart. Especially because they have such similar names like Warbird and Bird of Prey. It's like, okay, I mean, like, naming conventions are really, really important here, guys. And, naming conventions are another thing. It's like, man, I have never seen a sci-fi series that crushes naming conventions like Halo. Are you kidding me? Like, not just the not just the names themselves, they sound metal as hell, but then some of them are super metaphorical, like Pillar of Autumn. It's metaphorical for being humanity's last stand, in addition to just sounding really cool. A Long Night of Solace, Forward Unto Dawn, Retribution's Thunder. Like, damn. Like, and you can tell, like, when Helldivers was designing their UI for being able to generate names, they were thinking of Halo, right? Like my first Super Destroyer, Triumph of the Regime. That's a very Halo name. Some people literally just call theirs Prophet of Truth, Hammer of Dawn. Gears of War fans all call their ship Hammer of Dawn. And again, Halo fans, like a third of them go for Prophet of Truth. It's very endearing. It's very, very, very cute. But there's some, again, this all stemmed from a thread yesterday I saw where people were talking about a bunch of things they want to stop in sci-fi that's just like, oh, this is overplayed. And it's like, a lot of the things you are talking about only apply to 1 or 2 specific franchises, like overcomplicated names. That's just Halo, or maybe The Expanse. Like, oh man, The Expanse's, some of The Expanse's names are really cool too. Weeping Somnambulist. Oh, it's mwah. Then or like, again, overly designed ships like Greeblies are what makes Star Wars. It gives it that industrial punk aesthetic. That's what makes that, for instance, the Imperials are the bad guys. It's just like, what do you mean this thing overplayed? Instead of and just there's so many awesome franchises out there. Find the franchise that doesn't have this thing that bothers you. And like, it's not like, well, okay, maybe this isn't exactly true. I was gonna say, it's not like XY franchise has a stranglehold on the industry. They do. Again, Star Trek and Star Wars are really, and actually nowadays, even Warhammer is starting to become kind of in that, the cultural zeitgeist where, it's like everybody knows the thing. It's like, oh, blood for the blood god, and wah. There's things everyone knows about it, and it's started to become, I don't know. But I like that new people are coming into the hobbies and into those fandoms. But that said, again, even if you don't like this thing, there is a franchise out there. Maybe it's a brand new one, or maybe you need to go make it, because the thing you want taken out of the thing, or the trend you want to stop, is the thing that makes X franchise that. It's very. Oh man, it's 21 minutes. I didn't even talk about the droid designs in Star Wars. Okay, so I started to do the epilogue, but I'm gonna make a short segment for the droid Star Wars. Very cool. I really like how, again, you can tell where a droid was made, who made it, who designed it, by a variety of factors. Again, tri-fighters being very similar to droidicas in their and same with the Scorpion droids. I don't remember exactly what they're called. They showed up in Book of Boba Fett, which, man, that was a disappointment and a half. But it started out good. That's the problem. If it started out shit, that wouldn't have been a problem. And droids. The droid designs in Star Wars are peak. I don't care, and especially thinking about the droids in Star Wars, and I hope they make a show about this someday. And again, you know what? I like the Water War arc, and you know what? I like the episode of Star Wars of Mando that had Jack Black and Lizzo. That was not even the worst episode of that season. It had some really awesome ideas. It finally tackled the idea of what happens to battle droids who, when there's no battles to be had. They glanced over that in Kenobi, where when Kenobi runs into a 501st trooper who's a hobo, they need to have a whole show about this, about the rights and the ethics of droids and wiping droid memory banks when, over time, as they collect memories, they gain feelings. That is insane. That is something that really, really needs to be addressed. I would kill for a show about that. I would kill selectively. Be like, press a button and someone dies. No. I gotta pick. All right, well, let me pick, okay? But, anyways. Droid lives matter. Anyways, I guess, yeah. Droid design is really cool. They need. There's a whole metaphor in there for ethics and whatnot. And anyways, peace out, my clankers.